and this is the show today. Ryan Pineda's podcast about to go down.
What's up, wealth builders? Today, I've got somebody from our wealthy creator community. This man has done so much in the real estate space in such a short period of time. His claim to fame is that in his first year being a realtor, he made over $1 million with just doing YouTube. And it's not like he had like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube. He did it with 7,000 subscribers. And so I want to talk today about his story, how he did it, how you can use social media to grow your business, and clear any of these false beliefs about needing like hundreds of thousands of followers in order to make money. You can make a lot of money with very little follower counts, and you can grow really quickly. I mean, he made $1 million in a year. So I've got Levi Lascsak. What's up, man?
What's up, Ryan? Good to be here.
Yeah, man. So, dude, how'd you do it? That's what everyone wants to know. I already told everyone what you did.
Well, first of all, I made YouTube videos. Second of all, I partnered with my man, Travis Plumb, so that helped out quite a bit. But that was it. You know, it was something that I was looking to get into real estate. I had a financial services business for the last 5 years up until 2020, but I worked with teachers on their retirement planning at schools.
Okay.
And so I was doing very well and
what were you doing in that business? How much were you making?
So, most 280 in a year, 280,000 was my best year, 2019, and then the first quarter of 2020, I was outpacing 2019 by 40%.
Okay.
So and I had a teacher schedule, so I only worked about 8 months of the year, and traveled most of the time, and then of course, you know.
Wait, how did that work? Where you only worked? So it's just you would just schedule meetings with teachers and.
Yeah, so I do email outbound marketing and get appointments with them, which they would only want to meet during school hours. During the school, like you're not likely going to get a teacher to meet during the summer or during holidays.
Like what made you pick that niche of like I'm going to do teachers?
So before that, I was extremely ill because I had a digestive disease that plagued me from Iraq. So I spent a year in combat in Iraq with the Army, and then that messed with me for 8 years.
Wow.
I got really sick. I had a really good job. I was with the pharmaceutical company, and I was with them for about 8 years. But whenever 1 month, I lost 50 pounds and became completely bedridden and disabled.
Wow.
And after 90 days, the job wanted me to come back to work because my medical leave was over, but I wasn't physically able to come back to work. And so we had to part ways. And so at that time I was sitting there going, okay, what's my next move? And what was I going to do? So I just called friends and family to figure out what I said, who are you doing, or what are you doing? Who's doing what's going on? I didn't know what to do, really. And one of my friends, business associates that I hadn't talked to probably in a couple of years, she was just like, hey, there's this guy that's working with teachers on retirement planning. It may be of interest to you. And I thought, well, that does sound interesting. So I just cold called that guy and started talking to him about what he was doing. And he was doing that based out of Houston. I live in Dallas, Texas. And we just had several phone conversations. And then I turned around and got my license within a couple of weeks. And then I just basically asked him to show me everything he could. And he did. And then I picked it up and did that in Dallas. And so that got me into there to where I built that up over the next 5 years from my recovery. And I went on a health journey from there as well. Because whenever you become disabled and bedridden at 33 years old, it changes your perspective. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of take things easy, so to speak. I'd always been in that mindset of just, you got to work all the time as well. And that was something I didn't want to do. So working with teachers, that seemed noble as well, but also the time frame of, I didn't work during the holidays.
Schedule.
Yeah, I like the schedule.
My wife was a teacher, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So
it was really cool.
When we were both broke, she was going to school to get her teaching degree and everything.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, man, she's going to make like 40 grand, but we're going to have insurance and it's consistent and we get summers off. I'm like, this is it's not a lot of money, but it was a lot for us at the time.
Yep.
And I was like, this is a pretty good gig. And then, I was playing minor league baseball. She would go out for the summers when I was playing, and it was a great gig. So I see why you couldn't get clients in the summer.
But yeah, and the problem is teachers didn't understand their retirement plans.
Yeah.
So they assumed like you're eligible for retirement most of the time after 20 years.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that's 100% of your income.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they would retire with these gaps, or they would get to, retirement age and be eligible for retirement.
And they get like 60%.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
So my job was to help them close the gap. So, if you've got 10, 15, 20 years left in your teaching career, how do we close the other 20, 30, 40% you're not going to get from your pension?
Right.
So that's what I did with them. Basically just kind of problem solving and planning for the future.
Got it. So you did that for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're making good money, and this was all in Dallas?
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. So you're just going teacher to teacher. Like, what did you do? Did you just go to like the principal and you're like, hey, let me help your teachers out?
No, first you had to get contracts with the ISD. So you couldn't just walk into schools and work with teachers. So this was all done through payroll deductions. It was a retirement plan. So most people are familiar with 401ks. Teachers have what's called a 403b.
Okay.
And so, and to be able to do that, you have to get approval from the school. So I would work with schools to try to get the contract first. And if you get the contract with the school, then it becomes very lucrative, because then they basically say, hey, you can work with any teacher, but you still have to be able to acquire the teachers. They just don't know about this stuff. So once I got the contract with Dallas ISD, it was email outbound marketing. We just felt that was the best way, because you don't just scrape a list or get a list of teachers.
Yeah.
But we would have
You'd
we
have
could
all
get their
school
emails. Yeah, get their emails.
Just cold email everyone and see who says yes.
Yeah, we just email and say, hey, are you familiar with your pension plan, or understand what you're going to have at retirement? 99% of them would say no. and then we'd be like, cool, could we set up an appointment and come by?
Got it.
And so most of the time I would meet with them at their break at school.
Got it.
Because most teachers have an hour and a half or so
Right.
break in the
Prep
middle.
period.
Yep, exactly. So that was a real convenient time. So I would drive to schools, and my goal is to have 3 to 5 appointments a day, because with driving in between, that's about the maximum you could do.
Right. So you do this for 5 years, and this is right after, being bedridden. How did you even get out of that situation? Like what exactly happened in Iraq that caused that, and how did you break free?
I'm not really sure what happened, but I just know that the only things I can think about is, stress, anxiety,
Right.
different environment, different eating habits, food. But also, before we went to Iraq, you get a lot of, they line you up, you get a lot of shots, and you go over there, and that can weaken your immune system. And then you go over in a country, and you're in a different environment. And so I was there for 12 months. Within a couple of months inside a country, I started having just stomach problems really bad. Mm-hmm. Military doctors are kind of known for their, suck it up, tough it out, keep moving. And I didn't want to say anything to anybody anyways. You're in that environment. You've got to be dependable, especially to the guys next to you. So it wasn't a big problem. It was just more of an inconvenience. And that was probably become one of my biggest fears, was being out there, on patrol or on a mission and having some sort of issue. That's the last thing you want to do. So, but whenever I came home in 2006, it just came in and out, problems in and out, enough to where I ignored it for about 4 years. And then in 2009, I finally went to a doctor and got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which is like Crohn's disease. So Crohn's disease affects you from the esophagus to your colon, and colitis is just concentrated in the colon. But it's just ulcers. So what that means is that the colon's really responsible for absorbing a lot of your nutrition. Mm-hmm. And whenever there's sores or ulcers in there, it doesn't want to hold any food in, and so it makes it difficult to absorb water and nutrients. And so I met with doctors. They all said the same thing. You're going to be on medication the rest of your life. This is a chronic disease. There's no cure. And diet doesn't matter. Wow. And so, but after,
like with Crohn's, it's treatable by diet. I feel like I know a few.
Well, it is
friends.
treatable by diet. Yeah. Everything. I believe everything's treatable by diet, but typical medical doctors will tell you diet doesn't matter because they're going to put you on medication.
Got it.
And so that's what the medical doctors were telling me.
Got it.
And so that worked for about 8 years. I was still in and out of remission. And then I started dabbling around with juicing and natural remedies and things like that. And I was able to get myself in remission, full remission, I believed, with juicing. But I got off the medication, but then all of a sudden in 2013, one day, I just knew something was different. And then within 1 month, I'd lost 50 pounds.
Whoa. So what happened?
Absolute worst time in my life. I became completely bedridden, disabled there. It was, when you lose that much, I was typically always 190 pounds. Right now I'm about 195, and I'd been that way since high school.
Yeah.
And then I went down to 140 pounds. And if I showed you pictures, you wouldn't even believe it's the same person. But,
wow.
I was in the bathroom like 24 times a day, almost every hour. I was completely sleep deprived because I would wake up. I couldn't hold in any water or food. As soon as I ate or drank something, it'd want to get out of me. And I went to the hospital several times just to get IVs and hydration. And then as soon as I got home, it happened all over again. Doctors put me on steroids, IV antibiotics. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Went to 4 different GI doctors over 3 months. And this was the absolute worst time in my life, and way worse than Iraq. I mean, I remember, almost cried on a daily basis just from the pain. And I thought there's no way I'm ever going to live through the night. Every night it was so excruciating. And it was really God's grace that I found a natural doctor after 4 GI doctors. And every single one of them told me the exact same thing. Diet doesn't matter. Take this medication, try this medication. If that doesn't work, try this, And it got to the point where they were going to cut out my colon. That was their final solution, was to remove my colon. I was 33 years old and give me a colostomy bag. And the funny thing is that my brother called randomly after I'd been dying a slow death for 3 months and finally decided to offer some advice. And he said, "Hey, I know this chiropractor that he used to ride bulls." We grew up in a small town in Texas, a couple hours south of Dallas, and my brother rode bulls and saddlebrocks. And so he was like, "Yeah, I was riding the rodeo circuit through that area one time," and he goes, "I threw my shoulder out or something like that." And so I went and saw this chiropractor. Well, I'd had no idea at the time, like, chiropractors based on the state you're in can practice natural medicine. Not just do adjustments. Yeah. Some of them don't even do adjustments. They practice natural medicine, but it does depend on the state you're in. And at that time we were up in Illinois, and that's where they can do that. And so he said, and he had seen this chiropractor 10 years before. So this was a complete shot in the dark. Yeah. And so I go to see this chiropractor, and the first thing he tells me, he starts doing muscle testing and all this crazy stuff that I'd never heard of, never even thought of. And first thing he tells me is that you got a couple of parasites in your gut. He goes, "I can tell." And so he gave me diatomaceous clay, like actually food grade dirt that you can consume. Whoa. And I had to take all these pills. When I left his office, he had me taking 45 supplements a day. Whoa. And it took everything in my power to choke those down every single day because I couldn't even drink water.
You couldn't eat normal food anyway.
That was probably the worst part. Yeah. And was just trying to take 45 pills throughout the day. But I think the clay pills, I think about it now and it makes me think back of kicking dirt on a campfire. When your intestines are so inflamed, same with like Crohn's disease. Yeah. If you're eating and drinking, that's constant irritation inside your body. And how do you get that to heal? If you get a cut on your hand, you put a Band-Aid on it. Yeah. You keep things protected until it heals. Yeah. But how do you do that inside your gut? That's nearly impossible. So the dirt pills, I believe, really was just kind of like putting dirt on a campfire, and I think that's what kind of snuffed out some of the inflammation, because after 3 weeks of being on the natural regimen, like all of a sudden I woke up one day and I could tell. I could just tell it was gone. And he told me too, he really gave me the dirt pills to kill the parasites, to suffocate them. Right. And so but I think the alternative to that is that it snuffed out the inflammation, the ulcers. It covered them up, kind of like packing a wound with dirt if you're out in the field or something, and that's your only option. And so that all of a sudden I woke up one day and I was hungry. I wanted to eat. I was like, I want to eat. And I was able to start eating food. And I started to eat like 6,000 calories a day. I was so hungry. I was like so hungry. 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, snacks.
And you're holding it down.
Yep. And I didn't gain a single pound for 3 weeks.
Whoa.
I was eating so much, and the doctor was like, "Yeah," he goes, "You're so deprived. Your body's just trying to make up."
Yeah.
But I felt great. I wasn't going, trips to the bathroom completely cut down, and I stopped any medication I was on. So it was just really, and that was all just, like I said, I say that was by God's grace, because that was like a complete shot in the dark. And then all of a sudden that completely opened me up to a natural path, a natural journey. And it took me really a full year to recover. I believe at the 1 year mark, I was able to get back in a CrossFit gym but to recover that way from that amount of weight loss. And during that time too, like all of my organs would start to break down and fail because there was just so many problems.
Yeah.
So it just took me a long time to recover, but I was able to do that naturally. No medication, no surgery, still have all of my organs today. And it's been 10 years now, and I've never had no signs or symptoms at all, not a single one in over 10 years.
Wow. What a story.
And I haven't even taken Advil or Tylenol or anything like that.
Because you don't want to risk anything.
Well, that's one case, but I haven't even really been sick.
You don't need it.
I don't get the flu or the colds anymore. And one of the main diets that I got on, that one of the doctors got me on, was a blood type diet, which blood type diet's not really a weight loss diet. It's an immune system diet.
Got it.
So there's 4 main blood types, and based on your blood type, it'll tell you foods that are, helpful, harmful, or neutral. And that's really to keep because digestion is such a big part of your immune system. If you're eating the wrong things or that your body has a hard time digesting, it bogs down your digestive system, and that's what leads to, problems, right? Backup. They say now the gut's the second brain, and that's where a lot of your microbiome comes. So that diet helped me, and that's where I learned I was a blood type, which is the vegetarian diet. And I grew up in Texas on beef,
just eating beef,
brisket, barbecue.
I honestly still don't even know my blood type.
Exactly.
After 34 years.
Every time I tell this story, that's exactly what everyone says. I don't even know my blood type.
Yeah, I don't know.
But even fruits and vegetables, some don't coincide with your blood type. So what could be considered a healthy food may not actually be healthy for your blood type.
So I'll tell you this, I've been going on my own. Well, and by the way, praise God, because that's an amazing story. And, man, shout out to your brother for, God speaking through him to lead you down this path. And so that's amazing. I've been on my own health journey for myself and our whole family. My son has special needs. And so we've taken him to many different doctors, both like functional doctors, normal doctors, whatever you want to say. Like I've experienced every set, and that's how I operate, like, period, in life and business. Like, I want to hear multiple opinions on everything. And we've put my son on different diets and like all these different things. My wife actually found out she had a really bad gluten allergy, which is obviously common, but like I could see the moment she stopped eating gluten, her face started to become more skinny, and it wasn't like as inflamed, and she just felt 1,000 times better. And she'd been living this way her whole life.
Yep.
She just never knew it was like that severe. And then recently for me, I have been working with the team on just becoming like the Super Saiyan version of me.
Yep.
And, first thing I did was I got a blood test for testosterone and all that stuff. Then I got another test for foods. And so I actually did get my list of foods that's like, hey, my foods were, what were my foods? Some superfoods for me were like eggs and salmon and some random ones. And then like negative foods for me were like garlic. Actually, taro was one of them, which is what ube is. So that's super disappointing.
You can't cut out the ube, right?
No, and he was like, look, if you do it like once a week, twice, it's not going to kill you, but you shouldn't eat it every day. And I'm like, man.
Well, the blood type diet suggests that too. It says if you follow it 80% of the time, you're going to be good.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to look it up real quick while we're talking. But yeah, so I just got started on that because to your point, it's like, man, there are some things that you eat that are healthy, but not for you. Yep. You can't be eating that. And, I just decided that, man, I'm just going to take this health thing seriously. So I've been talking to health experts on the show. I've been going through my own journey, and now I'm on testosterone and peptides and stuff. And so, like, I'm thinking I'm going to have some crazy stuff the next, 90 days. But yeah, so it's cool. Like when you understand, like, and I think that's what we're doing as humans today is like we're starting to understand how to be the optimal version of ourselves because we have the science and the technology to do it now.
Yeah.
So anyways, I can't even pull up my foods, but just know you guys should get a food test for sure. Now going back to COVID. Okay.
Yep.
So COVID happens and that puts a dent in your business because nobody's going to school now and stuff. You can't really go on appointments and everything else. So what ended up happening from there?
Well, a lot. Yeah. I mean, it was all of a sudden the world shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there. Also, I'm 41 years old at this time.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself, how do I start over without starting over? Because I had no idea were schools going to open back up ever. I mean, what's going to, I mean, we had zero clue what was going to happen.
Yep.
And the only two industries that seemed to be growing during 2020 was real estate and toilet paper sales. Right? So I was
and vaccine sales.
Yes.
Don't forget vaccine sales.
And I didn't want to go back to pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a toilet paper salesman. So
got it.
I've got a lot of good friends that are successful real estate agents, but I've never wanted to be a real estate agent. I mean, I did feel like there was a stigma to it.
Well, especially at 41.
Yeah.
You know, like
I know.
You're starting over.
It scared me to death. I thought that's the last thing I want to do is be a 41-year-old
Well,
real
and you were
estate
already
agent.
like super successful with this financial career. Like
Yes.
you had a system, you could just ride it out and make good money.
Well, that was probably one of my biggest fears too, was being the guy that was like, hey, everybody, I'm a real estate agent now, because that's what they tell you to do, right? Tell all your friends and family, call everybody in your phone. And I just thought about starting over like that. And I thought, man, that sounds extremely discouraging.
Well, you kind of also probably had your identity wrapped up in being like the successful financial service guy.
Yep, exactly. So I had to just do some soul searching and figure out, okay, what's the next move? And I really invested in a lot of other things other than being a real estate agent. So I spent over $200,000 during the summer of 2020 to not be a real estate agent.
What does that mean? How?
That means I have these good friends that wanted me to be a real estate agent. And I was kind of like, no, I don't think so. That's not for me. So I had this money saved up, and I came across this crew that was doing Amazon stores. They were offering done-for-you Amazon stores. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that sounds pretty cool, because if they can do it all and I can just pay for it, that's exactly what would be a good fit for me. Yep. So I bought into 2 stores. It was a $25,000 investment plus like another $15,000 in inventory. Mm-hmm. So I wired that money, and they didn't accept credit cards, so this was straight cash.
Really?
Wired that money out. Yep. Okay. And that first store started up, they were doing like wholesaling. So they were buying wholesale products, putting them in my store for me and reselling them at 5 or 10 or 15% markup or 20 or 30. And so it started to work for about a month. And I saw a little profit, and I thought, this was great. Let me invest in a second store, which then they started offering private product Amazon stores where we actually source the product from China. One was like
You're doing private label.
Yeah, a bike bag I could buy for $1 and turn around, they're selling on Amazon for $25. Yeah. So I ended up doing that, and I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to buy 4 products. Well, each product to bring on with them was like $15,000. Yep. And then to get into that store was like another $60,000. And so by the time I'd done that, that was about $160,000 in cash I spent with this group to do these done-for-you Amazon stores for me. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Amazon changed all of their conditions and rules in the middle of COVID, basically right when we started those stores. Yep. And that caused them a lot of problems. Yep. Now, I think they bit off way more than they could chew, because they got a lot of people into the program, and none of them got results. It turned into a big deal. Actually, they just got SEC filed lawsuits on them, or they settled with all that. But it's been 2-3 years since that's happened. But anyways, none of that started to work out, and I could see that wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So then I started to buy courses. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, I got to find out the next move. And if I'm going to go into real estate, which I've always liked real estate, I've always dabbled. I've done a couple of fix and flips, some rentals. Most I owned was 7 rentals at one time. I did a fixer flip once a year, maybe. I was definitely a hobby style investor. But I always had the intrigue to be an investor full time. Mm-hmm. I would say probably just never the the guts to go at it full time, especially whenever you're doing well. Anyways, it wasn't a big motivating factor. So I started buying real estate investing courses.
Yep.
And as I started to go through them, and some wholesaling courses and things like that. And you know what I learned during that time going through those courses?
What?
You got to cold call, you got to door knock, you got to have a good flyer, send out some flyers.
Yep.
You got to talk people into selling their property. So it was a lot of things that I didn't want to do because what I was looking was a different approach. I'd been in sales for 20 plus years, loved sales, hated prospecting. So I want to say hated prospecting. I just didn't want to do prospecting anymore. Okay. Mm-hmm. So especially at my age, I was like, I'm kind of want to do something a little different.
Yep.
So that's what led down that path was I was thinking of what can I do that doesn't involve me starting over and starting prospecting again.
Right.
And that's what scared me the most about being a real estate agent on top of that is I didn't want to be that person out there shaking hands, kissing babies and going to networking events and passing out cards. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, well, if that's the same thing, it sounds like being a real estate agent, maybe I should just be a real estate agent since my good buddies are agents and maybe they can mentor me through the process, But before I do that, let me see if I can figure out a way to attract business. Mm-hmm. So this word attraction was kind of stuck in my head and I wanted to see, because I didn't want to prospect and attracting business, is there a way to do that?
Yeah.
The other problem was I was 41 years old and I never had developed a social media presence.
Right.
I was the old school person. 40-year-olds and above have the love-hate relationship with social media because it wasn't there in high school. It wasn't there in college.
Yeah.
Came around in our late 20s. And, when I was in Iraq in 2005, like MySpace, we were trying to log on to MySpace in 2005. And I remember Facebook coming on board at that time and I was like, oh, Facebook, I'm trying to figure out this MySpace thing, you know? And so I just never developed a following. I had like 300 followers on Instagram, never did anything there. So I was just wondering how could I attract business? And I figured is going to be through social media. And so that's what kind of set me down the path to say, okay, if I'm going to do this, how do I attract business through social media? But which platform? So that's another question I started asking myself because I think a lot of people, the mistake they make when they get involved in or start to make their move in a new business, then someone tells them, hey, you've got to be everywhere, right? You've got to be on every social platform. And if you haven't even mastered one yet, then I think you'll end up spending 20% of your efforts on 5 different platforms if you try to be everywhere at once. So I didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to see, could I figure out one platform, really understand that platform, and if I was able to generate business from that, then it may make sense down the road to venture off into some other platform. So I really wanted to just direct all my focus and efforts down one path, but which one? Like, how do you choose a social platform, especially when you're starting out? So I was trying to see if there's a way, if for me to be an agent, did I have a path to bring in business that didn't involve me doing it the old ways? Mm-hmm. And I looked at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They didn't really set well with me on my personality. And, I saw a bunch of seasoned agents giving really cool educational videos. And dancing and it just didn't fit for me. And like, I could read about an FHA loan and regurgitate that on a 60-second reel, but it also just didn't feel authentic to me. I hadn't even done a real estate transaction as an agent. So I was like, how can I provide value without doing a transaction and seem credible and actually generate business to where people would call me?
Okay.
And that's what kind of led me down the path of YouTube. YouTube was actually the last choice.
Yeah.
But once I started to dig into YouTube, I realized, okay, it's a search engine, not a social media platform.
Yep.
So that made me feel a little bit more comfortable about it. And then I started to understand, well, you can find out what people are searching for.
Yeah. And
if you create that content, you're likely going to get found sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So we started YouTube at the same time then. It was during COVID. And I remember I was sitting there praying. I was like, God, what should I do? I had like 50 house flips just on the market, or in rehab or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with COVID. And I can't even go outside. And government's taking all my rights away. And, I felt like I should have lived in Texas. But anyways, I was like, man, I'm going to start making content. And that was kind of like what I heard God saying. And so I started watching YouTube videos about how to do it. Same thing, right?
Yep.
I, though, saw TikTok and I was like, this is a great opportunity. And I was like, I'm just going to do both. Like, if one of them hits, great. If they both hit, really great. And I mean, they both ended up hitting, and then, Instagram and YouTube, they all adopted the TikTok style.
Right.
So it ended up behooving me really well to kind of be a first mover on that and get good at it. But YouTube was the one that I was always most excited about. And even to this day, this podcast is the thing that I think is the most valuable thing that I do on social media. It's not the TikToks or the Reels. I think it's this. And the reason I liked YouTube from the beginning was, one, unlike all the other platforms, it lasts forever, right? So it's like, man, videos from 2 years ago, people still see. Like the other platforms, after a day, it's gone. So that was super appealing to me, of that, hey, I'm not going to just make content that's going to just vanish. So that was one. Two was, to your point, search engines. Like, man, if I wanted people to join, our coaching program for house flipping, if I make house flipping videos, they're going to find it. And if I can provide a lot of value, then we're going to get customers, right? Third was, YouTube was the only one that actually paid you to make content. Not that that's like the huge money or anything, but I was like, man, none of these other things pay me. Like, YouTube will literally profit share with me if I make good content. And so the more I looked at YouTube, and the more I realized that, Google owns it, and like you're basically partnering with Google, and they're going to promote your stuff if you're good. I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And so I went all in on YouTube as well, because it logically makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, you got a little farther ahead than we did.
Yeah. Well, I think though it was because of the short form, to be honest. I think that obviously we did good on the just normal YouTube videos, but I think the short form for sure made people aware, and then they found that.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, if I could have started on TikTok as well at the same time, that probably would have been a good plan, especially because it had so much traction 2020, 2021. But I just wanted to focus on one thing. That was something I learned, like in my financial services business, is trying to go deep with the client on multiple retirement accounts, multiple policies, get the husband, get the kids, versus just trying to find the next person. So I think that's where part of that thought process was too, is like, let me see if I can go deep on one versus wide.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, how do I go deep on lots of things? And the only way to really do it is to get really good at recruiting and hiring and everything. Like, that's the only way. It's like, man, okay, if we want to go build this company, that company, if I want to learn this skill, that skill, maybe I can't learn the skill personally, but can I go hire somebody who already has the skill, who can go learn it, and now we can just go do it together. Like, social media is the only one where it's like, you have to be the person on camera. So you do need to learn the skill. You need to learn how to talk on camera. You need to learn how to be creative, to be entertaining. There's a lot that goes into social media success versus other industries. But, I mean, look, the fact is, you did choose YouTube, and you made $1 million your first year. So I think you chose right. Like, I don't think anyone would complain that you didn't pick TikTok.
Right.
So how the heck did you generate that much commission? And it's not like you had millions of followers. Like, you had 7,000 that first year. So how did that work?
So released the first YouTube video on December 5th of 2020. Okay. And that was after researching the platform for about 2 months.
Yep.
So I was fortunate. There wasn't a lot going on in 2020. So, but I didn't watch Tiger King, by the way. I decided to research instead. And once I decided on YouTube, I knew the mistake I had done before was I had never really dug into a platform. And so at this point, I had understood that if you really want to master a platform, you got to understand the back end and I think the important factors that go along with it. So I studied the platform for about 2 months.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I studied the platform for about 2 months.
All right.
Oh, I guess they'll cut to me.
No, you're good.
Okay. So I studied the platform for about 2 months first to try to learn everything I could. Now I'm still a little old school. So the first thing I did was I bought books. I went on Amazon and I just searched.
You bought Sean Cannell's book.
Yeah, I did buy Sean Cannell's book. Absolutely.
Yep.
And the funny thing is that, that's what I came across that. There was, you type in, YouTube marketing and books will pop up on Amazon. And so I just looked at the first 8 or so and was like, let me buy those. Yep. One of them was YouTube Secrets with Sean Cannell and Benji Travis. And and the other 7 were, they were all right, but not really in depth. So, but they helped me expand my knowledge. But really, Sean's book was opened my eyes because that's where I started to understand, oh, it's a search engine. So that led me to Think Media, start learning about YouTube through that. And then like Nick Nimmin and Dee Nimmin and all these people that teach YouTube. So then I started watching their videos.
Yeah.
And so I started to understand the platform from the producer side versus a consumer side.
Yep.
I'd always been on the consumer side, just, consuming.
Yep.
So now I started to understand, oh, okay, this stuff makes sense. When should you publish? How often should you publish? All these types of things that really just help you build a foundation. And so I started to build out a business plan for YouTube. And that's something I don't think a lot of people do whenever they start a social platform. Most of the time they just start creating videos, which is great that you're just getting started. But if you take a little time before that and study the platform, learn a bit, and then, execute some sort of business plan, then I think you're going to have a better idea. So I had a clear focus. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I had a clear focus of, okay, I want to publish this many videos. I want to publish on these days. I want to do this type of content. And then I filmed for a month in advance before ever publishing the first video, because also in my research, I figured out that consistency is key. And I think what a lot of people do is they'll film one video, they get all excited, they post it, and then they don't have a plan to film the second one or a timeline.
Yeah.
And then a week goes by, and 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and the next thing you know, you're talking yourself out of making content.
Yep.
And then that'll kill
Why
your...
am I not getting traction?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't posted in a month.
Exactly. And that's what I didn't want to get caught up in. So
Yeah.
I was taking this extremely serious. I was just going to go all in, push everything on the table. So there, I looked at that and I said, okay, so if I'm going to do this, film 12 videos, because I was going to publish three per week.
Yeah.
That was the plan. But I filmed 12 videos first in November and then released the first one December 5th on that time. Well, it's funny, I think December is about the time that I had met Travis over at a mutual friend's house. And we crossed paths there, met, kind of hung out, and then I just started publishing the videos. And that was it. Just stayed consistent. But I already had my content planned out for the next 4 months. So I also knew what videos I wanted to shoot. So I didn't sit there and wonder from one week to the next, what am I going to do? And this was me. I didn't have a team or anything.
Yeah.
So.
Let me add to this to edify what you're saying. So a lot of people go through the two extremes. One extreme is, hey, I'm going to take action without thinking, and I'm going to just bulldoze my way through and figure it out, right? The other side is, I'm going to research all day, and then I end up with paralysis analysis, right? And so, or analysis, I always screw it up, right? So there's two sides to the coin. The person who has analysis paralysis does nothing, and so they suck. And then you have the person who just runs into it and takes action, and then they don't get results because they didn't really strategize or think about it, and then they get discouraged and they quit. So both sides lose. The side that wins is when you can find that middle point, which is what you did. You said you spent a couple of months researching, you educated yourself, you bought, books, you got mentorship, you did everything to build the strong foundation to understand, and you said, okay, I get this, at least enough. You didn't know everything, but you're like, I know enough to know that, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and this is my, next quarter's 90 days plan. I did the same thing. When I decided I wanted to make YouTube, I studied all the people that were in the space. I hated it, but I watched their videos for hours. I don't watch anybody's content because I just don't care, and I'm too busy golfing and hanging out with my family. I don't want to do it. So I ended up watching it out of pure just focus. I'm like, these guys are the best. Let me study them like a quarterback would study a defense. And so I just started watching. I'm like, okay, I get what they do. Boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden I see these guys have courses and stuff. And I'm like, oh, let me just go watch their course. Yep. So I go and take a couple of courses. I'm like, oh, this is like a business. It's very simple. If you have this and a thumbnail and a title, that's how they watch it. Oh, this is how it works. Oh, YouTube gets paid by watch time and people staying on the platform. You want to make videos with good watch time. Oh, and it just clicked for me. I was like, it's not just random that people go viral. It's very strategic. And Mr. Beast has said that many times. He's like, if you knew what I knew, you could get 10 million subscribers in 6 months. He said that multiple times. He's like, I could take anyone to 10 million. And it's true. If you know exactly how to reverse engineer success, you can achieve it, right? So anyways, when I understood that, I said, okay, I'm all in. And I just set myself a standard. pretty much like what you did. I said, I'm going to post twice a week, no excuses. This is my end goal. I want to be the most known house flipper on YouTube, and I'm going to make that kind of content starting out. Eventually, if I accomplish that, then I'll start to broaden into other things. And that's exactly what I did. I did 2 a week for maybe like a month, and I was like, all right, I'm getting the hang of this. Let's go 3 a week. Let's go 4 a week, 5 a week. I went to 7 a week, and I was just like, let's test the limits of what's possible and whether it works or not. And I mean, over the 3+ years now that I've done YouTube, it's constantly had to adapt because the algorithm changes, what kind of content people want. Like at this point in my career, now all we do is podcast. I don't do the home tours anymore. I don't do the 10-minute videos anymore because I believe the YouTube algorithm wants podcast. And, the data is backing that up. Every time we just continue to post podcast, everything's growing way quicker than it was when I did just 10-minute videos. So to that end, it's not for everybody. Not everyone should just only do a podcast. I think entrepreneurs should totally do podcast because it's easy to conversate. You meet cool people. But if you're like an entertainer like Mr. Beast, he'll hop on podcast, but his bread and butter is going to be a 15-minute video. Oh, yeah. So I think for anyone listening to this, whether it's YouTube, real estate, being a financial guy, whatever you want to do, there's this middle point of you don't just go blindly, just do crap because you're going to fail. And you definitely don't over research and you have to merge the two.
Yes. And I love to call that hyper learning.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I believe whatever it is you want to do this day and age, you can hyper learn that subject in 60 days because there's enough books, videos, blogs, vlogs, everything out there. The information is out there. And if you study it, which means don't watch Netflix, watch YouTube videos instead, or read books, and you put everything you can over 60 days, you're going to have a very good understanding of whatever it is you're trying to do. Yeah. So if you want to move into a new industry or try something else, that's the easiest way to do it. Just dedicate yourself for 60 days, and you will have enough information to get started.
Yeah. Funny story about Sean and Think Media and Omar and these guys who've been on the show, and they've all spoken at WealthCon and everything else. And it's funny because in 2020 I found them too, and I was like, wait, these guys are in Las Vegas?
Right.
I was like, this is easy. I'm gonna go meet these guys, right? And so I fill out the form on their website, and like literally on the form I go, hey, I'll pay you whatever you want. Like literally I just want like first class treatment. Like I don't want your $5,000 coaching program. Give me because I was like, I already know what I have. I know I can crush it, and I know I have the business experience to back it up. I just don't really know YouTube or anything. And it's funny because I talked to this guy, Isaiah, who used to work there at the time, and we're now friends, but he's like, yeah. We don't really have anything like that, but I'll get back to you, and I'll get back to you. And then he never did. And so I was like, screw it. I'll just do it myself. And so I just, I figured it out along the way. And then maybe 6 months later, then I finally meet Sean and Omar and stuff. And I'm like, all right, guys. So 1, I'm happy we finally met. 2, I'm gonna have to fix your sales process. And
they got a leaky funnel.
Yeah, you had a ready and willing guy who was going to give you a blank check to learn, and it didn't get converted. So we're gonna have to fix that. But now we're great buds.
Yeah, they're super cool.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. You start making YouTube. Obviously, you're committed. Everything else, but how did that turn into $1 million? That's the big question.
Yep. Consistency.
There's no magic bullet. Did you have a viral video?
No, not at all.
No viral video. So what did you make the content on?
So Dallas, Texas suburbs. That's what I found in my research as well, is that for me not to be known, have zero presence, and then I was a brand new real estate agent, and the funny thing was Travis was too. So both of us were starting with zero branding, zero recognition. Nobody knew who we were. But this is what I like to distinguish between interruption and intention-based marketing. So interruption marketing is what most entrepreneurs are used to. It's what most people are used to. It's cold calling, door knocking, billboards, magazine ads, TV commercials. Mm-hmm. And why do you have to do that stuff over and over and over again? Yeah. It's because you're interrupting people's everyday, and you have to usually try to build rapport, establish credibility very quickly, so then you can try to educate them on the features and benefits of your product, and maybe they might buy. Yeah. But you see, when you have intention to buy something, you don't need any marketing or advertising. If you run out of dog food, you don't want Fluffy to die. So you say, okay, well, I'm going to go buy dog food. You don't have to wait for a TV commercial to come on to go buy it. So when you have intention to buy something, Now you're motivated, and now you're just looking for a solution to your problem. And so what I started to figure out through research was that people are searching about Dallas, Texas, and certain neighborhoods. They want to know the differences, the cost of living, the pros and cons, where to go, things to do. And when they're looking for that, it's probably because they're intentional about making a move. Well, if you believe people become intentional about buying and selling real estate, why not target those people instead of, bugging somebody at the Starbucks line, and handing them your business card, and they may not even be in the market for the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe they just bought a house yesterday, and you're sitting there like,
you're just handing cards to random people.
You're just handing cards. So when you create search-based content, this applies to any entrepreneur, whatever business you're in, then it gives you a foundation of an audience of what they're already looking for.
Yeah.
And so just by educating people, and the thing is, I've been in Dallas for 20 plus years, was not a great real estate agent. I had zero experience, never even wrote a contract.
Yep.
But I know Dallas. I know the suburbs. I know the areas. I know everything about it. So whenever I was making videos about that, everyone that called us assumed we were 20-year agents almost. That not a single person ever asked me, how many deals have you done? How long have you been in business? What brokerage are you with? They didn't care, because every time they called us, and this was inbound, they would say, love your videos, provided a lot of value. We're ready to make a move.
Yeah.
And so, that's how it started. And after 30 days, had 48 subscribers, but got the first phone call.
Wow.
And when you get the first phone call with only 48 subscribers, that gives you confidence.
Yeah.
It gives you, it's like, okay, this is working. And it was $1 million client.
Somebody saw me.
Yeah. $1 million client.
Yeah.
That's a $30,000 commission in real estate.
Yeah.
And I had 48 subscribers, and eight or 9 videos on the channel.
Yeah.
And he calls, and you know what, he didn't ask me any of those questions, but what he did say was, he said, hey, we're thinking of moving to Dallas. We saw your video on that particular neighborhood, which is the neighborhood we're thinking about moving to. It provided us a lot of value, so we thought, why not give you a call?
Wow.
He didn't say, hey, you only have 48 subscribers. Why so low? Hey, you've only got 8 videos on the channel. Why so less? You know, he didn't. He said that one video provided the value he was looking for, so he thought, why not give me a call?
It established
and
your
so
credibility.
the consistency is what builds the compound effect on YouTube. That's really the most powerful thing about YouTube. The most powerful concept is the compound effect.
Yeah.
Not just from views, but from of time.
Yeah.
And that's something I really want to get into, is because what led to the $1 million was right about that time too, whenever the first clients really started to reach out, is whenever Travis and I reconnected and he came into the picture. The funny thing is getting into real estate, that's why I was also reluctant, because I didn't want to get into opening doors and showing homes and, running people all around town. And I really dreaded having somebody like in my back seat or in the passenger seat, and all these, conceptions I had of being an agent. But Travis comes in and he's like, man, I'll do that stuff. Yeah, I'll do it. He's like, I don't have to make videos. What's funny is, even as handsome as he is, he doesn't like to make videos.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's funny. And so he didn't really want to do the marketing. What's funny, he had a marketing background, so he didn't want to do marketing anymore. Yeah. I had a sales background. I didn't want to do sales anymore. Yep. So we really just kind of met in the middle of, let's flip-flop here, and I'll just keep making videos. So that allowed me to never really go out and open doors and show homes, which saved me a lot of time. It allowed me to focus on the business development side of it and continually making content. Travis also came from the car business, so he started closing deals left and right.
Yeah.
And, that just became a compound effect. Really around month 7 or 8, he got overwhelmed whenever he was doing like 10 contracts in a month, and he's just like, I can't do anymore. And that's when we had to bring on another agent onto the team.
Yep.
So I think we finished the year with 2 additional agents on the team. We had to. But that we had closed.
All leads from YouTube.
100% from YouTube.
Wow.
Zero ad spend.
Zero ad spend.
Zero ad spend.
What about Instagram and stuff like that?
I'd never made an Instagram video.
Wow.
None of that. Just focused, just kept going on YouTube.
That's amazing.
100%. And so at the end of the year, we closed. It was funny because I wrote out this goal. I write out my goals every day. I have one of those little 5 by 5 little notebooks.
Yep.
And so I think there's about 30 lines in there. And so I have 30 goals, because I have like little 1-line goals.
Yep.
That are simple to the point.
Yep.
And I write those out every day. And I wrote, I earn $1.2 million in commissions from living in Dallas, from my real estate business, you know?
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the year, I had no clue, no idea if that would ever happen, if that would ever work. And by Christmas time, you know, you pretty much know by the first 2 weeks of the month, you know what you're going to close that month. All right. So by Christmas time in December, we knew exactly what we were going to close with. And it was like 990,000 in commissions. And I was like telling Travis, I was like, man, I was like so close to that $1 million mark. I was like, I just really wanted to hit it so we could say we did $1 million in our first year, but it's not going to happen. This is Christmas time. Well, no, maybe right before Christmas.
Yeah.
We get this cash buyer from YouTube.
Yeah.
This cash buyer from YouTube, like a $20,000 commission. And the guy, cash buyers, you know, they close quick.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I want to close before January 1st.
Yep.
He finds a deal, gets it under contract. He gets it under contract within a day or two, and it closes like December 30th.
Yeah.
And it was just enough to give us $1,007,000 in commissions.
Wow.
On the books for the first year. 100% YouTube, zero ad spend, no Instagram, no TikTok, no cross promoting. We didn't share it on social media. We didn't tell friends and family. It was all organic through YouTube. And that's how we did that. It was just, and then that compounded into 2022 into 2.3 million in commissions.
Wow.
And through June of this year, we had already done $1 million in commissions.
Wow. So, few things I want to touch on. One, you talked about writing goals down. I think that's amazing. For anybody who doesn't know this, I never talk about it because we have so many things, but you can actually we have a planner, a digital planner called the Wealthy Way Planner, and it's on the App Store. It's on the Apple Store. We even have it for all you Google kind of people. I'm not going to label you, but we've got it for the Android people too. And then you can use it on desktop by going to wealthyway.com and getting access to it. So I literally built it for myself selfishly, and a lot of people use it. It's free, and I fill it out every day. I see my goals. I write my journal, things I'm grateful for. It's an amazing tool. And the way I structure my goals is I have like my yearly goals, and then I have weekly goals. And so every week I set 3 new goals of like, hey, what do I want to accomplish this week? And it helps out a lot because I can really narrow in, since I have so much going on, of like, hey, these are the 3 most important things I need to get done this week. And it may just be, hey, I got to finalize this deal. I got to hire this person. I got to, do this thing, whatever, right? So definitely check it out, guys. Wealthy Way Planner. Oh, well, actually on the App Store, it's just called Wealthy Way, so you guys can get it. But other thing I want to bring up is just with what you said about YouTube and the compound effect. I'm starting to notice that myself. Now, I haven't been on it 3 years, and it's like, we just watch the stats, and I've just been consistent 3 years straight. Like, I've never missed a week. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you would know there are weeks where I'm not anywhere near town. I'm definitely not filming. I'm somewhere else. But if I know that like we're going to miss a week, I just double film the week before. And so you would never know we were missing it, because I truly believe in like compounding. And, if you take a month off or something like a lot of people do on social media, you pretty much start from zero again. That's how I view it. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to take social media serious. And then you go hard for 3 months and you're like, oh, I didn't get the result. I'll take a month off, and then I'll regroup. And it's like, no, you just have to keep going. And like you said, around month 7 was when things really started to take off for you guys. And Travis became so overwhelmed because you had so many leads. I'm like, dude, that's the dream right there, have too many leads. And the best part is, like you said, they're all inbound leads. Yep. Like all these other guys, especially in the realtor space, are so focused on outbound, and it sucks for anybody who's ever done not passive prospecting, active prospecting. Yep. It's terrible. I've never done active prospecting either in any of my businesses. Now, do we cold call and stuff? Now we do. I don't do it. But like initially, everything I've ever done has always been inbound. I'm like, hey, let me go meet wholesalers and realtors who will just send me deals. Let me do YouTubes and social media so they just call me. And that's literally how we built the business the whole time. And it's amazing that you get people that want to work with you. They already know who you are. I don't have to explain myself like on a cold call. Hey, my name's Ryan. I don't know if you know me or not, but exactly. I want to list your house and you should invest with me and whatever, right? It's way easier when somebody's already watched my content and they're like, no, I already know what he's all about. Like, just how much is it? Yep. How do I work with you?
Absolutely. Oh, it's amazing. These clients are the absolute best in the world because the video develops the relationship for you. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
Why do you do sales training? Why do you do sales coaching? Why do you go to sales conferences and read sales books? It's so that you can learn how to build rapport, establish credibility, build relationships with people, right? You're trying to help people know, like, and trust you so that they'll do business with you. And if you're outbound all the time, it's a cold hit. It's interruption marketing.
Yeah.
As to where the video, it's why we love Seinfeld and Friends, and, these shows, because you sit there and watch them and you develop relationships with those people.
Yep.
If you watch enough content.
Yeah.
It's the same. And so that's why people love them. But the same thing on YouTube, these clients watch your content and they tell us all the time, we watch your channel for a year before reaching out. And that's a huge opportunity because guess what? They've been consuming your content for a year. And when they become intentional and ready to make the move, which our average contact to contract in 2022 was 51 days.
Wow.
Meaning the first time somebody ever reached out to us, these are cold reach outs to us.
Yeah.
But we got them under contract in less than 2 months because that's how intentional they were. And they would literally wait until they were ready to make a move.
You didn't have to follow up and
No.
You're already following up through content.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is what I tell. So, like, you would know this. You joined Wealthy Creator right from the jump. And for us, I've always said that short form leads to long form, which leads to customer. And you talked about it earlier with, like, billboard marketing. Like, you have to constantly, like, get their attention because we're all distracted. We're watching all these different things, right? And so to me, short form is that way to, like, just be present and be around. And so, we get their attention with short form. And then, they go watch a reel with us right now, and they're like, oh, man, I want to see that whole episode. That was a really good clip. And then, boom, now they just watched a, hour-plus episode. And, the way that somebody becomes a client is they just spend time with you. They build trust. And it's like you said, they've been building trust with you for a year, watching your stuff. You have no idea who they are. You don't know they're watching. And sure enough, by the time they call you after a year, they're like, oh, dude, I've been watching you for a year now, and I've spent hours with you. You don't know me, but I want to work with you. And that's how it happens for us all the time. It's like, if I put out enough content, people start to understand who I am, and, like, trust is built, and, we end up doing business together. And the cool thing is too, you start to get people who are bought into the vision, right?
Yep.
Like, they start to understand who you really are. And, when things go good, everyone's happy. But when things don't go as good, you still have, like, somewhat of the benefit of the doubt, where it's like, hey, you know what? Like, I get it. Didn't go as planned, but, let's just keep rolling, right? Whereas if somebody doesn't know you and things don't go the way that they hoped, it's like, boom, negative review, boom.
Yep.
Like, and realtors deal with this all the time, and it's like outbound for people who don't know you ends up leading to, like, I guess, way riskier propositions.
Well, if you were my potential client and I called you twice a week, would you like that?
No.
If I text you twice a week, would you like that?
No.
If I sent you 2 emails a week, would you read them?
No.
But if I published 2 YouTube videos a week, would you watch them?
Me personally, no.
Okay, but you get the
other
idea.
people, yeah.
Most people will watch those 2 YouTube videos.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I try to text or call them, they're gonna be like, this guy's a pain in the get out of here.
Yeah.
Emails are gonna ignore.
Yeah.
But YouTube videos, people are like, oh, new YouTube video, especially
If
if
it
they're
relates to
researching.
them.
Yeah. If they're buying a house, this is one of the biggest decisions of their life. People are going to research. What's funny is 80% of the traffic online is mobile. But if you look at our channel, 55% of our traffic comes from TV, computer, and tablet.
That's super rare.
Those are research devices.
Yeah.
And 30% of our traffic comes from TV, which means people are sitting on their couch
I'm going to look at mine.
or
But go
laying
on.
in bed watching our videos. Now, you have to be very intentional to be watching Dallas, Texas real estate videos on your couch or in your bed.
And one thing I was saying too, I love that. One thing I've always said too is, like, entrepreneurs are very busy people. And so, like, for my kind of content, like something like this on a podcast, they're not intentional. Like, I would doubt that many watch this on their TV. I would guess most are just listening to it in the car, at the gym, whatever. Let's see what my numbers look like since you brought up that stat.
So you got to go in the advanced mode and then click on device type.
Oh, can I even go in advanced mode on the phone? I don't think I can. Yeah. Yeah, it's all good. One day I'll know the truth, but I'm going to guess most of it is probably mobile.
You'd probably have a lot of mobile, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people are.
Yeah.
But
That's
just,
interesting for you.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that for our type of content.
Yeah.
But that tells me, especially to see that type of on desktop and tablet, just tells me that people are researching.
You know what's funny is I remember like 10 years ago, they started to publish these articles. They're like, hey, like desktop's going to be phasing out.
Yeah.
Mobile's going to be doing this. And I'm like, nobody's going to be freaking watching videos on mobile. The phone is so small. Like, why would you do that? That's so dumb. And it was like Facebook was probably the first. They're like, we're optimizing Facebook for mobile.
Yeah. And
I just remember thinking, that Mark Zuckerberg, you don't know what he's doing. And sure enough, obviously they're right. And, when I think about like trends, now that I'm like inside all of it and I hear all these perspectives from guys who are super smart, both on the podcast and just, conversations I have behind the scenes. It's interesting to hear like different perspectives of, hey, where's the world going? Where's content going? Where's media going? Where's the real estate market? Like, like that's what makes you so, I guess, valuable as a business person is if you can see trends before they happen. And that's kind of like how I felt back in 2020 with COVID. I was like, dude, this TikTok thing is going to be massive. People don't get it. Like, especially entrepreneurs. They think it's some kid thing. It's not. And even YouTube was still so underrated back then. And I was like, why doesn't everyone make YouTube videos? It just, in my mind, I started to just look at them like, this is the best opportunity I've ever seen as a marketer.
Yeah.
Like, they'll let me post for free. They're going to associate with Google and give me all the search, like you said. And there's not a lot of competition. Like, people won't make videos.
They're the most content friendly. They're the most content creator friendly platform out there.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you post on Facebook, what do you reach? Like 5% of your audience, they say now, organically. Mm-hmm. Facebook, Instagram, they want you to pay to play.
Yeah.
TikTok's probably more generous with organic reach, but Facebook, Instagram, no. What do they want you to do? Boost post.
Yeah.
YouTube's like, we want to put the right video in front of the right person so they watch it as long as possible.
Yeah, because from YouTube's perspective, they just want you on YouTube longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if they're recommending our videos to people, it's a very specific video. So they know who's most interested in Dallas, Texas real estate. So that also brings us the right people.
Yeah. And let's talk about that because I've actually used you guys as an example before to others where I'm like, hey, it's not all about just views and followers and all that stuff. Like, if you get the right kind of people watching, it's more valuable. And for you guys, you're doing content in just Dallas, Texas real estate. And so by nature, your audience is going to be just capped.
Yep.
And, if I just talk about real estate nationwide like I do, then my audience is going to be bigger. The market size is massive. But to that end, it's far less competitive and easier to niche down and do what you're doing because it's like, dude, nobody's making the content you guys are making, like on Dallas, Texas specific, and checking out different neighborhoods and restaurants and all these cool things that somebody who's thinking about moving to Dallas, Texas would want. So it's like you're just like really honing in on this niche and just owning a market. And I watched a guy here in Vegas do that for many years. His name is Chuckets. He's on the show a couple of years ago, but he literally toured homes in Vegas. He got a couple 100,000 subscribers on YouTube now. He just tours homes in Vegas.
Yep. And
they're not like super highly produced, like they're not Ennis level videos,
right,
who's also been on the podcast. But he's gotten better over the years, but I'll tell you, he built his channel to like 200,000 with him and a tripod walking through a house, faceless. He's not even on the video.
Oh, wow.
And he's just doing commentary walking through the house. And I just remember when I was looking at YouTube and I was looking at him because I'm like, oh, this guy's in Vegas. And I watched it and I was like, that's it? Like, he didn't even have to edit it. He just he vlogged it and that was it.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I've seen those channels as well.
Yeah.
We've experimented with a couple of things like that. Haven't got it to exactly take off, but I don't think we're consistent enough on that content just because we started out with being the face on there and being the tour guide, you could say, through these areas.
Yeah.
And I do that. I hold it with a selfie stick. I still use an iPhone 11 Pro and a $20 tripod from Amazon. And what it makes, I think it makes people feel like they're walking right next to you shoulder to shoulder in these neighborhoods, in these areas.
So that's how you film right now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
With an iPhone 11 Pro, so I turn it backwards with the 3 cameras and put it on wide angle. So put it on 0.5 setting, and that way I know, and you just look and talk to the camera, but I know on that wide angle setting that I'm always going to be in the shot, and it's always going to capture pretty much everything behind me.
So what's my man, this cameraman over here doing? We don't
Alex,
need him.
Alex, super cool. We just
he's just cool.
Yeah.
We don't need him to actually film. He's just cool.
No, we could, but that way every time I come, I don't have to hold this the whole time.
Yeah,
which would be weird. But no, Alex he's high level. So we didn't invest in Alex until a year or so after the channel. Everything was bare bones minimum, no budget. And when we wanted to step up and film luxury properties, $1 million plus properties, we wanted to step up production there.
Yeah.
But also we started to get invites, opportunities like this. And so we wanted to be able to capture that without, sitting there holding our phones on each other the whole time. So it's a big part of that, but he helps us with everything.
You want to hear something funny is like, so, I used to do vlogs and other stuff. So I did that too for a period. And, I actually had some vlogs do pretty good. I actually vlogged my daughter's birth on my YouTube channel. So it's on there.
Nice.
We actually just watched it because we're going to be having our third any day now. So anyway, what was I going with that? Oh, so a lot of people, whenever I go speak at events and stuff, they're like, hey, where's your camera guy? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even bring my camera guy half the time. Cause like at this point I just like filming my podcast and like I'll film my reels and that's it. Like I don't, all the behind the scenes stuff, maybe one day like I'll get back to doing it.
It allows us to we're so backed up on content.
Yeah. And
so the strategy we're trying to do now is because just like if we speak anywhere, we're going to get questions by 20, 30 people. If you kind of come off a stage or you hang around or you go, I mean, people talk to me in the bathroom, like at the urinal, right? You're like, now Alex doesn't follow me in there. So
he should. He should.
But the thing is that it was a Gary V tactic, right?
Yeah.
Which is document over create. Yeah. And so, if I get asked 30 questions at an event, I've got 30 reels.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And so,
I agree.
Yeah. And so we've been, but I do believe what you're saying is when you produce content natively for that platform, specifically for Instagram or TikTok, you look directly at the camera, you have an idea, concept, I think that's the best way to do it.
It is the best way, but we repurpose this podcast for all those too, right? And they do really well, but
this is the same concept. It's just if you go to an event, you're going to get so much more content because you get asked 100 questions.
By the way, quick plug for WealthCon. wealthcon.org. This October 3 through 6, you guys need to, actually they want me to look over here. So quick plug, WealthCon is coming back to Las Vegas, October 3rd to the 6th. We got Ed Mylett. We got a whole bunch of people. I'm just going to tell you Ed's coming. So come. And I usually don't do like ads within the podcast, but you're bringing up events. A lot of people come to our events and film, and it is really good for them. They get a ton of content like Levi. Levi's one of those guys, and he leaves WealthCon with like all this content from all the speakers and me and everyone else. So if you're looking to just get content, I mean, it's like walking into the freaking red carpet, and you're just going to meet all these amazing people like in the audience too, who aren't even on stage, that are, legit people. So go attend WealthCon. What I was going to bring up though is, because I've now been filming so much, I just kind of enjoy not filming. And so I just try to be like a normal person sometimes. And
well, that's the other great thing about bringing your videographer, because then you're not filming.
No, but like I still feel, I don't know. So we went golfing last week, and they're like, are you going to bring your camera guy? I'm like, no, I'm just going to go golf and live my life and be a normal person. And he's like, you should bring your videographer and like double up. And I was like, whatever, we'll do it. So I brought Austin with me, and I let him golf too. And I will say I got like 20 reels in the cart. And I was like, all right, And it's just, they were all random reels. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That was actually way better than me filming 20 direct reels, like just being bored out of my mind and doing that.
Yep.
So that might become a thing, doing more reels while I golf.
And that's a strategy we're trying right now on the Instagram, is publishing like one direct to camera.
Yeah.
And then one event.
I call them dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then also speaking on stage, or this, I mean, that
Yeah.
if we get to speak on stage, that can be chopped up. So if we get 20, 30 reels out of a speech, then you have 20 or 30 questions when you step off a stage.
You know what's funny is, like, literally I've spoken on stage so many times and there's no clips from it like ever on my Instagram. And I told him, I was like, just chop up some of the clips from WealthCon. Like, we already have my speeches and they actually don't do that good. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll do more, but like, they've been the lowest performers. So it's just interesting to watch.
I would still say it's probably beneficial from the authority piece, right? But I mean, I think you've got plenty of that. But at the same time, it's you know.
For sure. For almost everyone else, dude, if you're on stage, like, freaking hammer that. But I mean, let's talk about too, just like since we started working together. So what brought you to Wealthy Creator? You were already crushing it.
Always trying to get better.
Yeah.
I'm a constant student of the game.
Yeah.
And actually, Travis made me do it. So
there we go.
He's the one that's like, hey, we got to get into this boardroom. We got to, get into the. But we came to one of your VIP days.
Yeah.
And it's where we saw. I was talking with Justin earlier, and last year, we spent $130,000 on events.
Wow.
Attending events. We went to 25 conferences last year.
Holy crap! That's every week, almost every other week.
Yeah. Well, we spoke at half of them, which is great.
Yeah. Yep.
But the other half, we were there to really learn, build relationships, and just seek opportunity, really.
Yep.
And from that, it all stems into. Things can change your business. You never know. A lot of people they look at today's cost versus tomorrow's value, which is why a lot of people won't go to conferences, because they look at the plane ticket, the event ticket, the time off of work, and they're looking at what does that cost me today versus what's the value that going to bring me tomorrow. Yeah. So we came to your first event on in January, and you had the VIP day, and that's where we saw Gary Harper speak. Yeah. And within 5 minutes, it was like me watching Gary Brecka. When I watched Gary Brecka on stage, I was like, after 5 minutes, I was like, that's the guy. I'm gonna hire him. Yep. Gary Harper, same thing. We're sitting here in your room, and that was the missing piece, a huge missing piece of our business. Yeah. And the funny thing is I was talking to Sean Cannell about this, because I'd always built from the ground up. Yeah. And that's what Sean said he's always done too, until he talked to you. And that's what Gary made me realize is like, no, you hire from the top down. Yeah. You build from the top down. You find your operator, your COO first. Yep. And so that's how I couldn't understand how are these successful entrepreneurs doing how do they have 5, 6, 7 businesses? Yeah. Because I always looked at myself as building, but that's the whole reason, the concept of passive prospecting came into place. Was I was so used in my previous businesses of doing everything myself. Yeah. If you want it done right, do it yourself. And also, I'm the best salesperson, so I've got to do all the selling. And then, I didn't want to pay somebody else to do something. Yeah. And they're going to screw up the deal, and I'm going to lose it. And so that's why I think I had to start over several times in my life, and especially at 41, whenever, if you had a successful business, COVID either made it more successful or it shut it off, you know? And I was one of the shutoffs. Yeah. So that made me realize too, I've got to do something different, because I can't let outside forces continually affect or shut down the business. And if I get removed because I've been deployed, I've been sick, and now, when COVID happened, those are 3 major, events in my life that took me out of the picture. Right. When I go to Iraq, if I don't have a successful business running on its own, it shuts down. Right. When I get sick, which no one would ever think that would happen to them at 33 years old. Yeah. And I played high school football. I've always been in great shape, never out of shape. You never thought your health would be an issue. And it was gone like that. Yeah. And that'll put things in perspective real quickly. And so, and then who would have saw 2020 coming? I mean, just crazy what that'll happen. If you don't have, all your leverage in place, then you're going to be out of business very quickly. So seeing Gary Harper speak, that was what we knew we were missing on our business there. We immediately hired him.
Yeah.
And it's been a game changer for our business. Like, we just lost our operations manager. She got an offer because she's so good now. She got an offer for more money with another company. And
you got poached. That means you're doing something right.
But because the last 9 months with Gary, we have all the processes in place, the systems, the process.
It'll be a lot easier to replace.
And we're not even, it's not an emergency.
Yeah.
It's not an emergency. And this is she played a pivotal role in our business.
Yeah.
But we've got everyone else knows what to do. So that in itself worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
On top of that, I just thought you threw a good deal, for what we had spent, what we've been spending and what we're willing to spend. We thought, man, it's a good price.
Yeah.
And of course, you offer the event special.
Yep.
So we got to take advantage of the event special.
There we go.
But I'm not where you're at on social media. So if I'm not where somebody else is at, and I feel like there's a connection. Plus, what I think I found from yourself, we wrote the book Passive Prospecting. Ryan Serhant wrote the foreword for that.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. At the same time, as much as I love him and his brand, we're never going to be selling $50 million apartments in New York. It's not really where we see ourselves going. So also, getting to see you and your companies, like, that's more me and Travis. We're more the t-shirt and jeans entrepreneur.
Yep.
We want to do some flips, investment, some real estate.
Make content.
Yeah. We've got, education program. We've got a productions program. And so, that's where we're more aligned here. So why not, if we can be coached by the people that run your social media and get some of those insights, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So, for us, we're not scared to make those investments in ourselves.
Yeah. No, I love it, dude. I love when there's guys like you, both of you, who are already very successful and still, like, very hungry to learn, right? Because there's a lot of people, especially realtors. I always get on realtors, dude, because they're like, I don't know, just...
Well, I got to say this, so earlier we were talking about compounding.
Yeah.
And my favorite concept of YouTube. So... the number one reason agents and really most business people tell me they don't get on YouTube is because it takes time.
Yeah.
YouTube doesn't take time. It makes you time.
Yeah.
And not only does it make you time, it compounds your time. So that's the only thing I disagree with the Wealthy Way book. Is in there you said time is a non-renewable resource.
Yeah.
But it is on YouTube. You mentioned 104,000 watch hours on your channel last month.
Yeah.
Have you done the math on that? You divide that by 24 hours in a day, that's equivalent to 12 years. So your channel, in our case for real estate, now here's the funny thing is last year in 2022, our channel got 104,000 watch hours for the year. So when you said, well, we did that last month, I was like, damn, all right, we got to step it up. But it's funny because I've made this point for the last 2 years, or especially since 2022. I'm like, our channel has watched 104,000 watch hours in 2022.
Yeah.
That's equivalent to 12 years of prospecting. That is a compound return of my time.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing the business we're doing. That's why we're crushing every other agent out there, is because our prospecting is not dependent upon us.
Yeah.
The channel is constantly prospecting for us passively.
Yeah.
Right? I make one video. I do one 30-minute investment in making a video.
Yep.
As soon as that video is watched 31 minutes, I've profited 1 minute of my time.
Yeah.
Once it starts to go past that, you start to get a compound effect. Actually, once it goes past 30 minutes of total watch time, you've made your time back.
Right.
Then once it starts getting watched over and over again, like one video has 12,000 watch hours on it. Just one of them took me 30 minutes to make.
Yep.
So not only is that a profit of like 9,995 hours of my investment, that's 1.34 years worth of prospecting.
Yeah.
And if anybody ever says, man, I wish there was just more of me.
Yeah.
Well, make a video.
Yeah.
And you got another you. Make 2 videos, you got 2 of you. Make 3 videos, you've got 3 of you. Make 4 videos, you got 4 of you. We've got 330 videos on the channel now. Guess what? That's 330 versions of ourselves prospecting out there. Right now, you look on the channel, we're going to have, we average about 7,000 views every 48 hours.
Right.
Nothing compared to what you're doing, but we know those 7,000 people are extremely intentional.
Yep.
And to be watching Dallas, Texas real estate videos, we know what that's going to turn into. So we don't need to go viral. We've never really had a viral. We had one mini viral video. I'd say we got like 30,000 views, within 2 weeks, which was awesome.
Yep.
But all of our videos are mostly steady Eddie.
Yeah.
We try to, I'm in competition with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to hit that 1 out of 10. YouTube tells you when you publish a new video, where does it rank out of your last 10 videos?
Yep.
I want to be number 1 every single time on that, that metric right there.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do that the last few videos. And that's something that, working with Justin, my man, Justin Barry, it's funny. He's looking at some things, but he was just saying earlier too, he goes, I really appreciate your willingness to implement what we're talking about, because we talked about over the last couple of months, okay, what's working for Ryan? What are y'all seeing? What are the changes? And just to have that sounding board, Justin's not a Dallas, Texas real estate expert, but he can look at the things. So to have the sounding board to where we can bounce things off of each other makes it completely different, to where he said, hey, maybe you should try combining instead of making, because we were consistent 3 videos a week. On average, they were 20-minute videos. Yeah. We've been 3 videos a week for 2.5 years straight. And it's kind of like, he's like, why not just make one 1-hour video?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You publish 1 video a week, and maybe it's a 40 minutes or an hour.
Yep.
He's saying, Ryan's not publishing any more 10, 15-minute. So even just having those types of conversations is what's changing. And now we've been doing that for the last month or so, month and a half or 2. Watch time's going up. Significantly, views going up. Yep. Browse, like we've always been search dominant. Yep. Always search dominant. Now we're getting picked up on browse, and not that we haven't before, but now it's more intentional to get picked up on browse. Yep. And we had this last week. We had our biggest lead intake this last week than we've had in the last 4 months. And this is in a market with 7% interest rates. Yep. Everybody says the market's going to crash. Real estate's going to, don't buy now. You open up YouTube, every thumbnail has fire and hell and hailstorms. It's like the world is coming to an end, right? We're going into a recession. There's a lot of negativity out there. Yeah. And we're just trying to continually make content, because we know people buy and sell homes every single day, and they become intentional when they have to do that. And people buy and sell homes in every market. It doesn't matter, 7%. In June, we closed 28 homes. Last month, in July, we closed 25 homes. Crazy. And that's when most agents right now, like 60, I think the number is 60 to 80,000 have gotten out of the business this year. Wow. Real estate agents have quit because of the interest rates. But in this market, the most visible agent's going to win.
100%.
Yeah, because people are out there and they're looking. It's just a matter of whether they find you or not. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm glad you guys are implementing what Justin's saying. I always tell our students and even clients at Pineda Media, like, I'm the guinea pig. Like, we're not going to tell you anything to do that I haven't already tried. And I'm always down to try new things and test them. And I'm really liking the long form content. It's producing well. So I'm excited to see how it compounds if I do it for a year straight. That's what gets me excited, is like, okay, I see it. It's working. Yeah. Now what happens after a year? How big's the podcast get? So that's fun. To go back to time though, let's talk about this, because I'm a big fan of time. And so like when I talk about time in the relative sense, it's like, okay, How am I going to how am I going to utilize my 24 hours that I get to use today? And so I always want to be as efficient as I can. Now, with that, there are things you can do that, like you said, compound time and give you more time. And one thing we've always told people at our workshops and everything else is like, the old way you used to prospect or get to know somebody or build trust is you go to coffee, you do whatever, and it's like, all right, I spent an hour going to coffee, and it was great. We built rapport, and now I got to follow up with them and everything else. And I'm like, well, to your point, I just had 100,000 coffee meetings last month. That's pretty extraordinary considering I didn't go to coffee once. Exactly. And guess what? A lot of those were follow-ups from, people rewatching. And guess what? I don't even have to follow up. Like, they're just being followed up with by adding more content. Another example of this is not just content, but, hiring people. I said it before once. I was like, we have over 100 employees. If everybody's working 40 hours a week, you do the math, like
That's 4,000 hours a week that are being worked for my, things I want to happen, right? And so it's like I work 20 to 30 hours a week, but we work 40,000 or 4,000 a week overall. And you really start to think about that and you're like, oh man, like, okay, I see why so much just keeps getting done. So you can compound time through delegation. Another way you can compound time is by putting a lot of effort into your strategy so that when you execute it, it just basically sells itself. So a good example of this was, I learned this from Hormozy a little bit. I'd kind of intuitively knew it, but the way he explained it to me made way more sense. Well before he was as big as he is. I remember texting him one day after I read his first book, $100 Million Offers, and his second book should be out by now when this gets released. But I asked him, I go, Alex, who wrote your book? I go, who was the ghostwriter? Like, who helped you write it? He goes, I wrote it. And I was like, really? Like, that takes a lot of time to like write a book and you have time for that? And I'll never forget, he started to publicly talk about it, but he was like, I mean, if I just put all my time and energy into creating like the best book ever, I now have to not spend any more time promoting it.
Yep.
He's like, most people write a book and then they spend hours and hours the rest of their life promoting the book. He's like, if I put the hours in initially, it sells itself. And that's exactly what's happened. And then, I'm sure his second book's going to do the same. And he's just going to continue to put hours and hours and hours into writing the book. And then he's out. He doesn't even have to do anything else. It's just done forever. And that was a really interesting concept for me because I thought about it and I was like, man, everything that I've been very intentional with launching, whether it was an offer, a product, an event, the more time I put into the initial prepping, the less I had to do thereafter.
Yeah.
And, you just get that compound effect. Like WealthCon is a great example. I mean, you guys have been coming now and they keep getting bigger and they keep improving and everything else. And it's like, it actually gets easier and easier to sell them because we're like really hyper focused on the event and the product. And it's like, now word of mouth starts building and everyone wants to come. And so it's just like, oh yeah, I know what that is. And it's funny because people are like, yeah, Ryan throws like, one of the best events in the year. And I'm like, I've only been like doing this for like a year, but that's the word of mouth. And when people are choosing between events, like, oh, I'd rather go to WealthCon.
It's your hype man too.
My hype man, my old Pat Hilton.
It's funny because that when we went in January, that's what Travis talks about because we did this event. We were speaking at.
Yeah.
Like in between, they had zero music. It was weird. So I came out on stage and I didn't even make it to the standing point. So like halfway down the stage, like people were kind of already done clapping, Yeah. And then you're just, you have like two or three steps of, okay, all right. And all right, how's it going?
Yeah.
And and you could tell.
Awkward. Yeah.
And so at that event, Travis was like, this is how you put on an event. You had the music going, you got Pat in there, just hyping, yelling, bringing everybody up, and and we learned because guess what we're gonna do?
You're gonna throw an event.
We're gonna throw an event.
Yep.
And guess what we're doing? Ryan throws pretty good events. You know, so how do we model that? And that's
you know what that tells me? It goes, that's a new product. The event company.
Yep.
Let's throw, like we've already talked about that of like, I already have people reach out. They're like, dude, how should I throw events? Can we use the workshop? Can you help us structure it? And I'm like, yeah, I guess once you get really good at something, everybody wants you to either teach them or do it for them. That's just the natural progression of a skill. And I'm like, dude, we're still like in the infancy of how good we're going to be with throwing events.
Right.
But I know now after doing it, I'm like, okay, we're actually really good at this. And that's going to be a very strong backbone to our entire ecosystem, not just the 4 wealth cons, but we have really big plans, with retreats, with like we already went to Cabo. That was sick. We're going to announce our next retreat, with different workshops and challenges. And, I was actually talking to Cardone's team. I was like, how many events do you guys throw a year? And this is why perspective always changes everything. Just like when we were talking about watch time and you're like, oh, dang, that was a month. It was a year for us. I go, hey, how many events do you guys throw a year? He goes, 100. I go, you guys throw 100 events a year? Dang. Like our goal was like one a month of some sort of event, whether it's a virtual event, a workshop. You know we got WealthCon every quarter, and I'm like 100. I mean, that's an event twice a week.
There's always somebody doing it a little bit better than you. That's just like, keeps you on it.
But here's the cool thing is when you have relationships, I'm like, okay, explain to me what these events are. How are you throwing 100 of them, you know? And you start to realize, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. I understand why you do that and that and that. Okay, all this makes sense now. And it took you guys 20 years to like really figure it out. And you just told me 20 years worth of, you know, data, and I can go execute it tight.
Yep.
You know?
Well, we went to his real estate conference, and that really opened our eyes to Grant, because that's a smaller one. That's only 1,000 people maybe.
Yeah.
So that's where he was teaching pretty much the whole time. Like we sat in the VIP section up front, which we always buy VIP tickets. Yep. And you should too.
I talked about that last WealthCon. I said, buy the best ticket you can get at any event.
Well, we're there because we got to go to lunch with him, and he comes down in the VIP section and walks around. Yep. And the thing is like he taught that whole time about multifamily. I thought it was one of the best events, but it felt like one of the most intimate as well. As smaller, it wasn't all pyros and you know, and it was a different side of Grant. I don't think a lot of people see. I'd never seen that side before, but one of the things that really struck me was he said something like, he goes, you don't know how hard I work. I'm trying to get $7 out of everyone. You know, he's like, I'm gonna ask for the business all the time. It's like I'm constantly making the content. You know, the $7 leads to the $30, leads to the $50, leads to the $100, leads to, you know. He goes, like, all my investors, all my big time investors are coming, and then, you know, and then he pulls out like $50 million out of the crowd. Like he starts working the crowd. What do you got? You know, what do you do? What do you do? Okay. Okay. What you got? What's liquid? This person's like $12 million. He's like, and you're not in Cardone, you know, you're not in Cardone Capital, you know? And so he worked about $50 million just from the crowd in there. So, you know, and it opened our eyes to see that, because multifamily, you know, this is something else. Going to these events, you know, meeting people like yourself and others. This is where last year Travis and I were going, okay, we
need more relationships.
Well, but we're not going to be the real estate. There's a old joke that says you're never going to go to a real estate agent's retirement party. So, you know, exist. And so we realized very quickly, man, we don't want to be caught up in this retail transaction world forever. You know, when you start, and I start coming and I start listening, you say, oh, I've got 500 apartments, or, you know, Pace Morby says, well, I had a goal of 500, but I got 2,000 apartments this year. You start going, man, that sounds reasonable. Right? That sounds possible.
That doesn't sound crazy anymore.
Yeah. So let's start the education process.
Yep. Let's learn how they did it.
So let's get around these guys and learn and pick up a couple of books.
Yep.
No rush. I'm not going to go out and buy 500 units tomorrow, but let me just start.
Plant
a year ago.
Yeah.
A year ago we started doing that. And, you know, now we've got all these opportunities come up. And one of my daily goals was I invest in 500 doors in 2023.
There we go.
Had no clue how that was going to happen. Did not feel comfortable about it at all. Still don't feel like I know all my education is not there, but it's something that I just write out every morning. I'll invest in $500. Right now, nothing for the first 7 months. Now first 6 months. In July/August right now, invested in my first 2 deals, 63 units and 320 units.
Cool.
So almost 400 doors like that. And now it makes me think, is 500 too small?
Yeah.
Because I could maybe find another 120 units next month. Maybe I should be 1,000 by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And why? Because I found these people that I met at a Brad Sumrock conference last year.
Yeah.
Which I think is where, did you spoke at Sumrock's conference last year? No, okay. And so that Pace did. Pace
speaks at every conference.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm the opposite. I speak at.
You spoke at Growth Video.
Yeah. So, if it's in Vegas, I'm happy to speak.
Yeah.
Other than that, I might travel like twice. That's why I force everyone to come to Vegas for WealthCon too. I'm just lazy.
Yeah. I like that. I admire that.
I'm like, I'm gonna have to pass on that.
So going to 25 conferences last year.
Oh you guys are event junkies.
But we pursued it. I know. That was I'm never really saying, I can't wait for it. Except Cabo. Cabo's like, that's one we always like to go to. But, it's really because we know that's the fastest way. What's funny is I was at the gym this morning at 6 a.m. when it opened up. We're staying at the Aria Hotel where the conference is at. And who's in there? The president of global operations for our brokerage. And this is the guy, though, that we have a very strong relationship. Why? Because over the past 2 years, we're at the gym at 6 a.m. and he's there.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he was going to be at this conference. But then we were up at the dumbbell station. I'm like grabbing weights and he's like, oh yeah, funny seeing you here. But now that's almost an expectation with somebody that you wouldn't just have access to.
Yeah.
You go to these conferences, you got corporate staff, founders, influencers, all these people that if you DM them, you're probably never going to get a reply.
Yeah.
But you run into a conference, people are the most accessible that they'll ever be at conferences.
Yeah.
And so we developed this relationship with him, which got us to, when was that? At the beginning of the year, got us to ring in the New York Stock Exchange bell with our brokerage, got us on the floor of the NASDAQ. And then the meeting after that, because we know Michael, he was able to introduce us to affiliate services of the entire brokerage.
Wow.
And that led us to getting our program as a preferred so we're the only YouTube approved program for the entire brokerage. They have 90,000 agents.
Wow.
And now we have
that's EXP, right?
Yeah, EXP. Yeah, we're partnered with them. And that wouldn't have happened if we weren't going to these events, meeting the right people, showing up continuously, but also providing value.
Yeah.
We just don't go there to take and take and take. And it's one thing I love, like Pace says, like he's always asked people, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing at these events. This group that we got in on these multifamily deals, I met them last year at a Brad Sumrock conference, and now it's coming full circle, and we just kind of started talking again, and I started talking about YouTube.
Yeah.
Guess what they don't have in their syndication? Marketing.
Yeah.
No, not. And I was like, well, shoot, let's make a YouTube video.
Yeah.
I got the production, I've got the team, I've got the skills. They were they were so excited.
They thought it was the best thing ever. Yeah.
And we made it. I said, let's just do a video together, and I'll kind of show you guys how it looks. They're over the moon. Now we're bringing investors to the mix. We're getting in on deals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you this as, we get towards the end here. We're talking about relationships and how important they are. Social media is the number one way to build relationships. I always call it relationship capital, is really what starts compounding, because it's like, if you build one great relationship, they'll introduce you to whoever you want, And so one of my biggest strengths has been by having a podcast that gets a lot of views and downloads. I can get people on the show. And then if I get to hang out with them for a couple hours because they come see my office and we talk and we chill, we'll eat lunch sometimes. Like, I've now built a relationship with this person. And not only, will that relationship with just me and them be great, but if they know somebody that I want to meet, they'll introduce me like right then.
Yep.
So that's been a big thing. And it's also been one of the reasons why, like, if you create valuable, if you create ways to give people value, like you said, right, it makes it so much easier. So it's like, man, if somebody comes on my show, they know they're going to get value. They're going to get exposure. They're going to learn things, and, it's going to be great for everyone. With WealthCon and everything, I literally have like a list of 100 people that want to speak for free, and like, they'll just come out. And I literally, every quarter, people are like, oh, dude, do you got any spots left? And I'm like telling very influential, and I'm like, I just don't. It's just like, it's crazy. But then it goes to, well, why can we do it when no one else can? Well, it's relationship capital. Other people would be spending hundreds of thousands on their speaker budgets to do this, and we don't. And so, like, there's so many things that happen from social media that will benefit you. Even like on the podcast, it's funny because somebody will be like, man, that would be cool to get that guy. And I'm like, let's just DM him. And so I'll go on my phone, and this is my pitch. I'm like, hey, if you're ever in Vegas, I'd love to get you on my podcast. That's literally the pitch. There's nothing else to it of like, we get this many views and I do this. I'm just like, straight to DM. And you would be surprised at how many people respond and they're like, oh yeah, bet, let's do it. You know, and I've been trying it lately with just like random pop culture people I like, not business. Like the business people, they're easy. I can get them any day. But like pop culture is like a whole different thing. And, you know, there's guys I like and stuff. And I'm like, I wonder, like, so athletes, you know, musicians and stuff. You know, one of my favorite musicians is Mike Posner. And Mindy, my wife, we were just talking. We were listening to one of his songs. And she's like, it'd be cool if he was on the podcast. And I was like, that would be cool. So I just texted him. And I was like, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, I get a DM back. He's like, yeah, let's do it in the fourth quarter. And I'm just like, okay.
Good pitch, yeah. It's funny. So on Thursday, we go on Sean Kelly's podcast.
Yeah.
And that happened because Sean Cannell was on there and mentioned us.
Yep.
And then Sean Kelly reaches out and is like, hey, Sean talked nice about you, so want to come on the podcast.
Yep.
And it was cool because I was like, yeah, well, I'll be there this week for the conference.
Yep.
You know, can we set it up? And he was more than happy to do that, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's the other benefit of Vegas. It's like nobody's like ever
this is
mad.
this is like the entrepreneur's haven now.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all
Everybody's
really
moving
turn this
out
into the entrepreneur capital over here.
I know, man. I think about like all my friends out there. So you got like, who you got? Bradley, Hormozy, my YouTube buddies are all out here. Like Graham Steffen, Sean. There's a whole bunch of people.
Sean Cannell and Sean Kelly lives here too, right?
Yep. So. Neil Patel just sold his house. He was just telling me that. But yeah, I mean, more and more are moving out here, so it makes life easy.
Yeah.
Finding and hanging out with cool people.
We need to buy a place out here. We're, you know, we call this the conference city.
You need to go on YouTube and search Las Vegas real estate, and then just pick the best YouTuber out of like just principle.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people we help out here, so
okay,
yeah.
So you already got them.
Yeah, but we're here. I mean, almost every conference is here as well. So
you're here probably 10 times a year.
Yeah, this is the first time though I'm staying the weekend. I've never really just hung out in Vegas. Yeah. I've always been in and out. Yeah, and this time I'm gonna stay for the weekend and just chill out, check out a few shows.
That's dope.
It'll be nice.
Cool. Well, bro, it's been great having you on, man. Appreciate all the knowledge that you dropped. Your story is inspiring. I didn't know, the beginning of that story with the health issues and everything. So it's amazing what you guys have done, and I just appreciate you being, just such a vital part of the community and somebody who's also willing to help others in the community and at these events. And you're always hopping on coaching calls and just being, a guy who's giving value, dude. So it means a lot, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So guys, if you're not, look, if you're looking to buy a house in Dallas,
yes,
that much is certain. You probably won't be interested in their YouTube channel if you're not, but you can subscribe anyway. And make sure you subscribe to this one, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.